Hey guys, welcome back to the Cupcake Jemma channel with me, Jemma, and I've got something very special going on today because I got a friend with me, my lovely friend Richard Macon, who has just released this fantastic book. And when I say fantastic, I really do mean fantastic. It's called Anything You Can Cook, I Can Cook Vegan, and it literally is that. You did that.
I hope I did.
You definitely did.
Yeah, that's the goal.
So we're going to be baking something from the book today. We're going to be doing this amazing blackout cake. We've actually wanted to do a Brooklyn blackout cake on the channel for some time. So it's quite fortuitous that Richard was like, oh, do you know what? I really want to do that one because we really want to do this one too.
Yes.
Why is this so brilliant?
I just think it's a really fantastic cake anyway, vegan or otherwise. If you're into chocolate cake, for me, this is the ultimate chocolate cake. And what makes it special is we're not using any buttercream on the outside. It's chocolate custard or chocolate pudding if you're American. And I just adore it. I think it's a really good example as well of a veganized recipe that isn't overcomplicated, doesn't need crazy, crazy weird ingredients, and just works pretty much every single time. I say pretty much.
It definitely does.
Who knows?
No, it does. Like, so one of the first things that you have to do for this recipe is make this insanely rich chocolate custard. So I actually did that last night because it does need to be chilled for, well, really for a few hours, but ideally overnight. So all I did there was I got a saucepan, a medium-sized saucepan, and then I put into that 250 grams of caster sugar, 520 grams of soy milk, 150 grams of good quality vegan dark chocolate, 50 grams of corn flour, 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder and 1 tablespoon of espresso powder, and just give that a really good stir with a whisk and then get it onto a low-medium heat. Keep on whisking it as it warms through and eventually the chocolate will begin to melt into the rest of the liquid. And it's still really thin at this point, so do not worry. It doesn't look very custardy right now, but if you keep it on the heat and whisk it constantly, you will get there in the end. Now, don't let it sit around not whisking it, otherwise it will end up a horrible lumpy mess. Keep on whisking. I'm very lucky because I had Rich at the other end of my WhatsApp assuring me it would thicken up, and lo and behold, after about 10 minutes of heating and whisking, it began to do its thing. So don't lose confidence. When you think nothing will happen, keep going. You will have custard. It's ready when it's thick, smooth, dark, and, well, custard-like. Pour it all into a container and get a piece of cling film, pop it right onto the top of the surface to stop it from getting a skin. Then let it cool before putting it into the fridge for a few hours, preferably overnight. So that is just chilling out in the fridge now, and in the fridge it kind of transforms, becomes really thick and lovely and dense. Oh, oh, so excited, I've jimmied my sieve. Not euphemism. Time to bake the cake. So this is your thing, Richard. You bake me a cake.
All right. Well, to start with any vegan cake, I really like to blend my wet ingredients together just because it helps everything to emulsify a little bit better. Also helping to emulsify a little bit better, we're going to try and use soy milk as our plant milk just because it naturally contains lecithin, which helps to emulsify. This is science class. So into a blender goes the soy milk. Also going to use some vegetable oil or sunflower oil will do. Then we've also got some vegan butter, which has been melted in advance, straight in. Because we're not using eggs in this recipe, we're also going to be using something called psyllium husk powder, which you can get from any sort of health food store. But if you can't get hold of it, do not worry. You can also just use ground flax seeds. They do a very similar thing, but you will need to double the quantity. Straight in. Cider vinegar also helps to emulsify the batter, which is going to stop our cake mix from splitting in the pan, so that goes straight in. Then we've also got some espresso powder to give it that really gorgeous, rich, dark chocolate flavour. Straight in there. We're going to put 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract straight in. Ooh, look at that stuff, gorgeous. And then we're just going to give this a nice little blend. Okay, that's all done. So now we're just going to transfer this to a medium bowl.
It looks like tahini.
Yeah, it does look like tahini. Coffee flavoured tahini.
It smells really good. That must be the coffee.
That's the coffee.
What strange stuff.
Strange texture. You can see how the psyllium husk has sort of made it kind of jelly-like and wobbly. That's because it's doing what eggs normally do in this recipe. Psyllium husk is really high in fibre, and it holds together batters and things, stops them from splitting.
Is that what would be the main element of like an egg replacer product?
Yeah, pretty much. It's also, you find it a lot in gluten-free flour because it kind of behaves like gluten as well.
Interesting.
Now we're just going to add some light brown sugar to this, give it a little whisk.
If you can get it out of the bowl.
And we're also going to add some boiling water. Time to give this a nice little whisk until smooth. You want to whisk until it looks like a nice, dark, smooth, glossy caramel. And then we're just going to do our dry ingredients. Okay, so now we're going to sieve together some plain white flour, some nice, dark, rich cocoa powder, and then we're going to do our bicarbonate of soda, baking powder, and a little bit of sea salt. Sieve these together. I always think when you mix cocoa in with flour, it looks like a spaniel's coat.
It does look a lot like that.
Isn't that nice?
Well observed.
Then we're just going to add the wet ingredients to the dry. So we're just going to fold this through until we have a nice batter. Okay, that should do it. It's a little bit lumpy, but...
I am doing the tins. So I've greased these tins just using the vegan butter. I've actually done it quite liberally. And I'm using greaseproof paper, and I'm doing the sides as well because I was advised to by the author of the recipe, because it can be quite a delicate cake, and you want to give it the best chance in life not to stick to the pan. So I've just done a round at the bottom, and now I've made a little kind of collar for the sides.
We're going to divide the batter, roughly, doesn't have to be perfect, between the two prepared tins, and then just spread out across the bottom, and then repeat. There we go.
These need to get baked, so we've got the oven preheated to 160 degrees Celsius. It's a fan-assisted oven as per usual, so you do the math if you haven't got a fan-assisted oven. And we're going to bake these for 30 to 35 minutes, and you'll be wanting to check them with a skewer right in the middle, and they're ready when the skewer comes out clean, obviously, like with all cake. Now, I also haven't told you something very exciting, so we're going to give you the opportunity to win a copy of both Richard's book and the Crumbs and Doilies book, signed copies, no less. There's going to be three of each books available. So head over to Instagram to get the lowdown on how to make that happen for yourself, because that's where the competition is happening. But it does involve following us both on Instagram, so make sure you're following Cupcake Jemma and School Night Vegan. Why are you called School Night Vegan?
Because that was when I used to experiment with vegan cooking. Back when I used to run an, you know that I used
to actually know this.
I used to run an ice cream company in London that sold ice cream all over the place at markets. And as I went vegan, the only time I had to experiment was school nights. It doesn't mean that I'm vegan only on school nights.
No.
I'm vegan 24/7, 365.
But if you want to be a school night vegan too, that's okay.
No judgment here at all.
Right, let's go and have a cup of tea while these cakes bake.
Yes!
Look at these guys. Look how lovely and dark and springy they are. They smell delicious. That espresso. A lot of people are funny about putting coffee in chocolate cake because they don't like coffee, but it does enhance the chocolate flavour. It's science. It actually is science.
Yeah.
Flavour science. I read about it once. I can't remember what it said, but just trust me, it's science.
Just feels deeper, right? Just feels like a richer chocolate flavour.
It does exactly that. So, we need to build this cake up. Now, obviously, there's 2 cakes here, but we want a 3-layer cake. How, you may ask? Well, we're going to split them. So I'm going to split these in 2, and 3 of those layers are going to be the cake, but the other layer is going to be crumbed up to go all over everything, right?
Yeah, it's probably the least effort you'll ever put into decorating a cake, but it just still looks gorgeous.
Yes. So if you're a bit like, oh, I can never make anything look pretty, this is the cake for you. Now, you haven't seen this, but this is the custard. As you can see, it's like mega thick. So this has been in the fridge overnight. It's really thick and luscious. Get your spatula in there, Richard. Go on, give it a stir.
Oh, look at that. I can barely, oh my word.
That's actually delish. And in a traditional blackout cake, would they have just used pudding out of a tub?
You could do, or if you were being fancy, you could make like an egg-based chocolate custard, but
If you're being fancy and not vegan.
And not vegan, obviously, yeah, sure. But you know, it's super easy. We've just used cornstarch to make sure this is nice and thick. That's what's doing the job of the eggs.
It's actually magical. I was a bit dubious, I must say. I was a bit like, you know, especially because I was like, oh, is this ever going to thicken up? And then it just did.
I find that it almost even has like a purer chocolatey flavour because you've not got the flavour of the eggs,
I know
like
what you mean.
Confusing things.
Yeah.
But as long as it's this sort of thickness, and imagine obviously this is going to be between the layers, but also around the outside of the cake. So if it's much thinner than this, it's not really going to work. So it's good that we've got it nice and thickened. And just to make sure that it's homogenised and not lumpy at all, we're just going to give it a little whip with a whisk.
Give it a little whisk. Well, I'm going to get splitting with my cake leveler. You could use a serrated knife if you don't have this fancy gadget. Just make sure it's as level as possible. However, this is quite a delicate cake inside, but if you do like break it, don't worry. Just use that broken bit for the crummy part of the cake. This is a very nice cake to split, actually. It's really soft.
Is it?
Inside.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
We eyeballed this, we split them. One actually is a little bit bigger than the other. It's okay though. And I'm gonna use the smallest bit for the crumbs. I'm just gonna put that in that bowl for you.
Yeah, perfect.
Can you crumb that up? Oh, look, it's doing its thing.
If you're making this with kids as well, this is a really nice part to get them involved, because which kid doesn't want to break up a cake with their hands? I mean, which adult doesn't want to do that either?
I love it. And I am going to start building this cake up. So I've got a turntable here just because I like to make my life a bit easier, you know, but you don't have to do that. You could just do it on a plate with no turntable. So the first one's going on. I'm actually not going to use anything to stick it on because it is quite a sort of moist cake, if we can say the word moist.
Definitely.
It's a bit of a danger zone. I'm going to pop that right in the middle, and just be really careful when you're handling these cakes because they are quite sort of delicate. They may break if you kind of rough handle them. And now, oh, I need a spatula. Give me that spatula.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there it is.
There it is.
I'm going to be quite generous with the filling, but also bear in mind that it is quite a soft filling. So if you put too much in, it's just going to slide around. But if you don't put enough in, it's not going to be as delicious. So somewhere in between too much and too little, I guess.
I think that's plenty.
Is that specific enough for you? So use a sort of small offset cranked palette knife just to spread it all around. And it doesn't matter if it goes over the edges because we're just going to cover the whole cake in this stuff.
So glossy. World without chocolate or world without crisps?
Oh my God, that's really hard. Like any variety of crisp or just...
All crisps in the world. Like crisps have never been invented.
Oh no, that's a terrible question.
You're a crisps gal.
I love a crisp.
I am too.
There's a special place in my heart for chocolate. I feel like I
could still have chips.
Happily eat crisps breakfast, lunch and dinner, whereas for chocolate, I'd be like, this is not okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a Bruce.
It is. It's a brute of a Bruce.
I famously hate decorating cakes because you only get one go to get it right. If it goes wrong, you have to start again from scratch.
No, you don't.
This is what normal people feel like is true.
No, there's a fix for everything. So we've custardized it. Is that a word?
It is now.
And now it's time to give it its crumb coat, guys, which I didn't even make the connection, but it is a coat of crumbs. Not a crumb coat as you may know it. And I'm gonna just apply it on the sides and you're gonna do it on the top. I'm gonna keep my bowl underneath the turntable though, because this is gonna get messy.
The sides are the difficult bit, so I'm glad you're doing that. But really none of it is that difficult, is it?
No, not really. And like we said earlier, like, you don't have to be a decorating pro at all, because as long as you can shovel crumbs into your hand and onto a thing, This is going to be fine.
Again, it's great to do with kids.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this is great.
They'd love this. Kids are constantly being told not to play with their food, and yet, here we are.
I like to use my cake scraper. Once I've got all the major bits off the side, I like to get it and go like this. And like shove it into the bottom. That way it goes in neat on the corner.
So neat.
We've covered it in crumbs, it looks delicious, but I've been told we're not allowed to eat it yet.
I mean, technically you can. It is ready to eat right now. It's not poison. But I strongly advise whacking this in the fridge for at least overnight. Something magical happens. I'm not going to try and explain the science because I don't know, but the moisture of the custard somehow makes its way into the sponge, and you end up with like, it feels like a standalone trifle. It just sort of holds its own weight better, slices better, and my mouth is watering just talking about it.
Well, do you know what? Like, lucky for you, and for me, and actually for you too, why not? Because I did make one earlier, and put it in the fridge. So it's actually been chilling out. Look. Here she is. All set and luscious and hopefully moist. Do you want a big bit?
Yeah. Silly question.
I mean, all right. Oh, that goes through nice, doesn't it?
Oh my word. Oh, she's a beauty queen.
My bit. Oh. Your bit's bigger than mine. But I have got this whole cake to eat.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's time to eat a cake. This does, actually. We've all been going, oh my God, look how delicious, behind the scenes.
And sorry to be this guy, but can you believe that that's vegan?
No, I actually can't believe it's vegan.
I know that that's a really cheesy thing to say as a vegan cook, but the myth is that vegan cakes are dry and sad and ugly.
Yeah.
And this is just delicious and happy and ugly.
It's the opposite. It's not ugly. Look how perfect this is. Like, look at those layers. Well, I mean, we could talk about it all day.
Shall we go for it?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, that was not ladylike. Yummy.
Oh my word.
So fudgy.
Something as well about it being
Yum.
fridge temperature.
Yeah, I was just going to say
Doesn't that help?
In my head, I'm like, warm chocolate, that's nice. But actually, cold, it's delicious.
It's like how chilled brownies, I think, are better. They have a better texture and a better flavour.
100p. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're definitely going to continue to eat this, but before we go, we just want to say thank you very much for being here and for welcoming Richard onto the channel. Don't forget to check out Instagram and check out the competition if you want a chance to win our books, which we will sign. Also, definitely do make this cake. It's so simple. There's only one ingredient, which is like something you wouldn't have around. That's the psyllium husk powder, but you can get hold of that probably fairly easily. I knocked it up really quickly, apart from the kind of overnight chilling time. This is really easy, really delicious. So take pictures, tag us both on Instagram, School Night Vegan, Cupcake Jemma, or Mini Cupcake Diaries if you like my personal life. It's not that personal, it's obviously public. Anyway, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for making my delicious cake.
Thank you for creating it. We're going to carry on eating, so we will, well, we won't. He won't see you next week, but some of us will see you next week. And yeah, enjoy this cake in the meantime. Bye. Look at that tiny finger wave. Bye. I want more. I haven't even finished this bit yet.
I am going to eat that entire thing.
Me too, actually.